And we're back. This is part 2 of our broadcast. We got cut off on Facebook. So we're back here, and let me invite my guests back in. Let me shoot them a quick message and they'll be good to go. Here is the login details for Dahi. Okay, just bear with me for one moment while we get back up and running. Looks like Facebook have had some issues and have cut us all off. All right. So we should be back up and running again on Facebook. Let me check the numbers. Yes, people are joining back in on Facebook. Okay. Here we go. All right, back in. Something happened on Facebook. God only knows what. Michael, let me send you a link. There we go. All right. We're back. Part 2, 2 separate broadcasts. All right. Thanks everyone for joining back in. We're going to redo the whole thing right from the start. Michael and Dahi don't know this yet. We're going to start from the start. I don't know what happened there. Facebook, I just got a notice saying that Facebook had some streaming difficulties and cut us off. So glad to see you're all back in. All right, here we go. Here we go again is right. All right, we're bringing Dahi back in. Boom. Here we are. We're back. You've stolen Michael's seat. He's going to go in underneath you now on the screen because he came in last.
Proper order.
Proper order is right.
Do you know Michael is from about 7 miles from where I grew up as well?
Is that right?
Over the border. He's very close to County Carlow.
Sorry, are you trying to say I'm from Carlow?
If you ever want to wind them up, it's pretty easy.
There's a lot of things I'll tolerate, but being from County Carlow is not one of them. I'm a good 4 miles from the border, my friend.
4 whole miles.
And they all count.
A good spit and you'd hit it.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so we're back up and running. The numbers are back up. Everyone's back in again, which is brilliant. And all right, so what were we talking about? We were talking about single farm origin. We're talking about terroir. We're talking about fields of barley being grown for distillations. This week we had Tipperary Distillery release their first whiskey from their own barley, which is great news as well.
Yeah, no, I think look, the more places they're releasing their own barley, their own iterations, their own distillate from now on, the better. And it's like Dahi was saying there, is it 34 this week? I genuinely lose track sometimes. 34 this week. 37.
Is it?
Yeah.
It genuinely changes from week to week. And that is the best thing about Irish whiskey at the moment, that it's just such growth. It's unbelievable. And people always say, like, just as a point, like, people always say to me that they were like, where's everybody going to go? You know, what is there space for everybody? And I always say we're about 8-9% of the global market. That's all we are. We are yes. Dwarfed by Scotch and we are dwarfed by bourbon. We're even smaller than Canadian whiskey globally. So there is
not even that much. I would have said 4 or 5%.
No, we're about 8-9%. Like, you know what I mean? And so there is all this space for us to grow into. And Barry, it's funny that we're talking about single malt tonight, because the one point I want to make on single malt is, while pot still is definitely our quintessential style, I think single malt might be our in to the world, because you don't have to explain the style.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at, people know what single malt is. Like, look, I did a stint abroad, obviously trying to explain to people what single pot still was. And to be honest, by the end, I wasn't, I was obviously talking about single pot still, but I was more kind of going with the brand, and more talking about the brand that it was, more than single pot still. And I'm saying single pot still is kind of like the Irish version of single malt, Why die? It's like
Dahi said the end of it. I've heard enough.
I've heard enough. That nonsense. But I do think it makes it easier for consumers. If we look at other brands globally, or other countries globally, so you have the likes of Taiwan with Kavalan doing quite well, India with the likes of Paul John and Amrut, they're going with single malt, because you don't have to explain the single malt category to a whiskey drinker. They know what a single malt is. They're just switching out one for one. You know what I mean? They're already drinking a single malt from Scotland, perhaps. So you can tell them, drink a single malt from Ireland. Whereas with pot still, it will eventually come, but it's a bit more of a job, and there's a category education piece as well,
Haven't the Scottish done a remarkable job of owning the category of single malt? I think it was a remarkable marketing coup to label leftover whiskies in rural distilleries that weren't being bought up to be vatted and blended and stick a fancy name on them and suddenly put them in high demand. What a clever marketing trick that was.
It just shows you the power of marketing, that you roll it back to the 70s when they had oceans of single malt that wasn't, blends weren't selling, whiskey wasn't selling as much, and then these oceans of single malt, and all of a sudden they went, cool, we'll just tell people single malt is the thing, this is what you need to be drinking, this is what your Don Draper types are drinking, you know what I mean? And it just went from there.
Independent bottlers that brought out and coined the term and saved single malt Scotch, or developed it, I guess, funnily enough. And
there's a few other examples in history of less than desirable products being marketed very cleverly and turned into very sought after things. And I'm not saying that whiskey and single malts are not being sought after, but I'm saying that marketing has done a remarkable job historically of drawing attention to things that may not have otherwise been acquired. So lobsters, for example,
once fed to prisoners. I mean, monkfish, another one from the sea, Barry. That was another was only fed to they were given the scraps. The priests were given these funny looking fish. But you look at those single malts, like, you know what I mean? It was initially a marketing thing, and the way that was always explained to me about single malts versus blends. Blends are obviously the largest category globally, and you have Scottish blends are the largest category. But you get this depth of flavor across a wider category almost with blends, because you're getting different distilleries in Scotland. Whereas with single malt, you're getting this depth of flavor in one direct, in distilleries, and you're just getting this, really complex depth of flavor from one distillery, which I just think is fantastic. Like, and I would always kind of lean towards single malts. But yeah, it is a funny one.
To make more interesting blends here, and I think if you look at there's some fantastic blends in Ireland.
Name them.
Not as well known as obviously, yeah, you've got one there. But we have obviously hot still and single malt and grain. In Scotland, they don't. They have single malt and grain.
And that's the great thing about Paddy; it has all three.
If you take Tullamore Dew Phoenix, for example. Yeah, one of the best Irish whiskies on the market. Or
as an aside, right?
On the market.
As an aside, right? I've been sitting here for the evening. We're watching the toy show. I'm at home in my home place in Wexford, and my mother came in and she goes, "I'm going to have a hot whiskey before I go to bed." She pulled the Tullamore Dew Phoenix from the press, and she was heading off with it. I said, "No, where are you going with that?" And she goes, "I'm going to make hot whiskey." I said, "No, not with that. I gave her something else."
You gave her a
Paddy.
And I gave her Paddy, yeah. And I said, no, not with that. And she goes, "You told me anything in the press that was open was for drinking." And I went, yeah, but don't be throwing that into a hot whiskey, like, you know what I mean? That's a 70, 80 quid whiskey, like.
Are you a whiskey snob, Michael? Drink it, drink it.
Yeah, but I'm telling my mother, don't be drinking €70 whiskeys in the hot whiskey, like, you know what I mean? There's no need for
extinct whiskies.
Yeah,
I had the same discussion with my mother when I was back in Cork there last week, and my mother's a great she's a great warehouse for whiskey deliveries, put it that way. So when I find something in Ireland I want and I can't ship it to America, or it's too ridiculous to ship it, I'll ship it to her. And so she's got a lovely press full of lovely whiskies, and she loves the smell of whiskey. She wouldn't be a big whiskey drinker, but I have this fear of coming home and Dream casks and Jameson 15-year-olds have all been popped open just so she can have an old sniff, and I'm convinced that I'll come back one day and there's corks all around the ground, and half the bottle is evaporated, so she could have a good smell one of the days. So that's a concern.
Happen. I believe it happened to, I think her name is Cassandra. I think she's based in the US. Maybe she's
Cassandra Hare.
Yeah, I think she got a bottle of PX18, and her dad made hot whiskies or Coke with whiskey and Coke with it or something. And home and it was gone. He opened it fresh.
Mine was a legitimate fear as well. Like, I think is it Connemara 18, the cask strength? That was am I right in saying there is a Connemara 18 cask strength? I think.
Oh, is there
21?
21, maybe it was the 20. It was the 21. But I remember I was away at sea for a couple of weeks, and I came back and the bottle was
away at sea.
Yeah, and I was in the Navy. In case you didn't know, I mentioned it before. I was counting mackerel off the west coast. I'll have you know, and when I came back, and the bottle was more or less gone. And I said, where did that go? Oh, we had a few people over. I made a few hot whiskeys. It was very cold, and I was like, I hope you enjoyed them anyway. You know, because they were the most expensive hot whiskeys you've ever had in your life.
And you weren't in the whiskey industry at the time, Michael, and you know you had to.
And I had to pay for whiskey, and it was awful.
Michael's permanently away at sea, according to Dave Mara. We all have a bit of a seafaring, a bit of a maritime connection. We've all been on the open seas for a bit. Dahi a sailor, Michael a blackguard, and myself on cruise ships. We hardly worked hard, but I didn't anyway.
So there was days I did and there was days I didn't. You know what I mean? And there was, you know, I tried to work as little as possible, and it's still very much the same, Barry. To be honest, you know.
Well, look, we can tell by your attire. You know, the apparel oft proclaims the man, as they say, and so you're letting us know your commitment to your work with your flowery shirts.
Listen,
I'd love to hear
summer's
more
a state
about
of
the
mind.
cruise ships. I'd love to hear more about the cruise ships, Barry. I'd say you have some stories.
I have some stories. All right, I went there I was in hotel management and working in hotels and bars, and that was my kind of path I thought I was going to be on for the rest of my life. And I went to work on ships, cruise ships in 1997, and it was my first time ever leaving Ireland or England. And I went to Germany to meet a ship in a dry dock in Bremerhaven, and it was bitterly cold. And I joined this ship, Cunard, working for Cunard, the cruise line, and went there anyway. And the goal was to spend 6 months working as a waiter and just get a bit of experience and kind of travel a bit. And I ended up staying there for 4 years and working my way through various departments, and ended up heading up kind of the purchasing department for 3 different ships and kind of going around rotating. I'd spend 4 months on one ship, maybe in the Caribbean, and then another 4 months maybe in Asia, another 4 months in North America, Alaska, or Mediterranean. And my job was to make sure that the ships were fully stocked at all times with everything that the menu would need for all the passengers. So you're looking to forecast 6 months, 8 months, sometimes 2 years ahead of when the passengers are going to get there based on weather conditions that are expected. And I was chancing my arm. I was green, like when I arrived there, and I was learning on the job, but it was my college. Like I didn't go to university. I didn't go to college. I went straight out of school into hotel management. And then ships were kind of my kind of growing up and introduction to like the big world outside the cove, outside of Cork, you know.
I think we'll probably all agree they'll fairly quickly knock the corners off you, like, you know what I mean. I think it's definitely an education, because you know you can do a job, but when when everything is moving around you and you're walking sideways on the walls, like, you know what I mean, that's a different thing altogether.
I had this Italian fella, Italian maitre d', took me under his wing. His name was Felice, which means like happy, you know, in Italian. He was a small little guy, probably 5'1", double-breasted suit, slick back hair, tan. He was the quintessential maitre d'. Like he was always getting brown envelopes from the guests because he'd take care of them, you know. And he took me under his wing, and one of his first bits of advice he gave to me, he pulled me to the side in the restaurant, and he said, Barry, he called me Barricello. He goes, Barricello, we call you Barricello. And he took me to the side of the restaurant. He said, you have to be very careful on the ship. I said, oh yeah, you know, big wide eyes. Like, why? He goes, be very careful of the women. I was like, all right, yeah, why is that, you know? And he said, let me tell you a story. He said, one night, he said, I was in my cabin, banging on the door. I was like, oh yeah? He goes, yeah, 3 women banging on my door. And he said, but I not letting them out?
Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, he was a character. But yeah, I did stories like that.
Yeah. I'd say we all have those, and when this is all over, we'll all share a drink and we'll share them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not online.
The lock-in's not the place. No, to have this recorded in immortality. But it's funny, like you'd hear. I mean, you've all got stories like that. But I remember, you know, the passengers they'd be wide-eyed. You know, they want to know how the ship works and how things operate, and they were curious as to whether the crew stayed on board at night. And I remember one of the waiters was having the crack at one of the passengers one time and said, no, should there be no space for us on board the ship? Every night the helicopters come and they ferry us ashore, they'll fly us ashore and we'll stay in the hotel to come back the next morning, And the passenger was nodding anyway, just taking it all in, going, geez, that's amazing. Anyway, the next night, that waiter was pulled aside by the hotel manager and reprimanded. And he was like, why? What's the problem? Why am I in trouble? And he said, well, that passenger went straight out to reception and she wanted some money back. And he said, why? And he said, because she told reception she couldn't sleep with the noise of the helicopters coming and going in the morning and the night.
Oh my God.
You'd have some crack.
I remember, as an aside, we were in Derry, we were alongside in Derry, and we were on one of the warships, and they obviously have a large cannon up the front, and we were given tours around, and this young fella came over to me and he kind of hit me a shot, and he goes, what happens if I press that button? And I said, well, do you want to press it and see what happens? And he goes, well, where's it pointed? And I said, over there. And I kind of pointed generally in an area, and he went, hey, that'll do. And he went over and he pressed the button, and he was very disappointed that nothing came out at the far side, like,
You didn't level one half of Derry.
Yeah, he was very disappointed. And look, we won't say which persuasion he was from or where he was from, but he was very disappointed.
No, don't.
We had one of the passengers called reception one time, and they were in a panic. They said, help, I'm trapped in my cabin, I can't get out. And the receptionist said, well, what's wrong? Is the door locked? And they said, well, look, there's only two doors. One of them leads to the bathroom and the other one says, do not disturb.
We've opened up a can of worms here.
Welcome to the Seafaring Podcast. This is...
we got some shanties. We should be singing some shanties to go with the
Your
stories.
stories are far too clean. I won't be able to tell any of mine.
Yeah, no.
Well, these are the PG ones.
Yeah, they have to be the PG ones, because there used to be a saying when we were in the Navy, what happens past Roach's Point stays past Roach's Point, and I'd probably leave them all out there as well, like,
How often do you go past Roach's Point?
Don't start that nonsense now. We rarely went outside the confines of the northwest coast of Ireland. Like, I used to sit out there getting hopped around the place, but we were there. It was the west coast of Ireland.
Protecting our waters. It's.
God, I wish someone would.
We owe you a debt of gratitude.
Well, we skipped ahead a bit. I don't think people know. Like, Michael, you were in the Irish Navy, and you were.
Sorry, yeah, I was a navigational officer in the Irish Navy, so I was in the Navy for about 5 years before I decided whiskey was a far better calling. And then
far more lucrative. You've built a wardrobe on the back of whiskey.
I've certainly built a following. I don't know how lucrative it's been, but I'm rich in friends now.
So you were a navigation officer, and okay, so did you have to learn like the historical methods of using a sextant and the stars, or
yes.
Was it more just
you
did?
I have used a sextant. I did a degree. I had to learn spherical geometry. It is so difficult. It is beyond belief to use a sextant, especially because in Ireland it's cloudy about 90% of the time. You know what I mean? So it's very difficult to pick up anything. And look, Barry, I'll be straight and honest with you. I was terrible at my job. Like, you know what I mean? I really didn't care. And a large proportion of that job was counting fish and essentially making sure the ships were the fishing boats were under quota. I'll be honest, unless they had huge amounts of drugs stuffed into the mouth of the monkfish, it just didn't bother me, Barry.
You weren't cut out.
I might have something to say about that now next year.
And so whiskey was a better calling, I decided.
I had a friend that was a navigation officer too, and he was from Cork, and he might have been the worst navigation officer in history. Honest to God, every chance he got to make the wrong decision, he made it. And I remember he was even bad at navigating off the ship. So when I remember I spent a year in Austria after I left ships. I was 4 years in ships, and I went to Austria for a year to study in college, and he came to visit me. And I was in Salzburg in Austria, just kind of south of the German border. And he was coming over to visit me anyway. And I go to the airport anyway, and I'm waiting for him to land so I can pick him up and we go back to my place. And I'm there waiting in the airport and I get a text from him and he says, I'll be coming in on Aer Lingus. I said, brilliant. And I go over to the arrivals screen and there's no mention of Aer Lingus. And I go to the information desk and they say, well, Aer Lingus doesn't fly in here at all. So I text him back and I say, where are you? And he goes, I just landed. I said, where? In Salzburg. He goes, Salzburg? What are you doing in Salzburg? He said, I just landed in Vienna. I said, Vienna? And you a navigation officer? I said, that's a 4-hour train journey, like. And that summed him up. So I've, if he's the barometer and for navigation officers, geez, Michael, we're in trouble, like.
Yeah, no, look, Barry, don't hold it against me. It seemed like a good idea at the time, and I've rectified that decision since. And obviously, look, I'm on a better path, and here I am on a Friday night, like, where else in the world?
On the lock-in, you've arrived, like you've landed.
Yeah.
Dahi, what's you're more of a sailor, a man with sails as opposed to engines.
Yeah, well, I like not in a big way, but yeah, no, I've sailed a bit. Yeah, I did a bit of sailing in the Whitsundays. Obviously, I grew up in Carlow, so I wasn't exactly used to
a good seafaring county that is.
I wasn't used to going out to the RCYC, Barry.
No, Crosshaven.
And so when I went to Australia my first time in Australia, I ended up in the Whitsundays, and I paid to go out on one of these 3-day, 2-night trips on maxi sailing yachts. And I don't know anyone knows what a maxi yacht is. It's like a Formula One racing yacht, and 100 feet long. And I just couldn't believe these things. You could just jump on them for a couple of $100 for a few days. And I ended up, after a few days, having a bit of crack, going back and working on them for pretty much free for about 2 months.
What did you work at on them?
Just so I could learn to sail. And
right.
From there, then I've sailed regularly enough with a time.
And that's the last time he ever did anything for free, I'd say. You know what I mean, Barry?
I mean, judging by the size of the sample I got, I mean, there's not much going around for free, like.
We'd be coming into Cork Harbour and you'd be rattling in on this 90-metre ship, and all of a sudden you'd have this lad in a sailboat and he'd swing out in front of you. And with ships, as you know, there's rules of the road, like, so if you have an engine, whoever has the sail, the lad in sail, you have to get out of his way and you have to make sure. And we'd be like, there's the Waffies now. And Waffy stood for wind assisted fucking idiot, like, you know what I mean? So, that was the contempt we used to hold you in.
Yeah. I had something similar when I was flying. When I was learning to fly, we'd be in. I was in controlled airspace in Australia, and it was a small regional airport. And it'd be like it was 737s coming into land in it and A320s. So like, they're still big jets, and I'd be out arsing around in a Piper, Piper 28 built in 1973.
Same as yourselves.
Parts, not quite. Parts of it may or may not be working on any given day, and especially the radio. That used to go down a lot. So these guys used to be apps. These guys from Virgin and Qantas used to be shitting themselves because there was no one else around learning to fly, just me. Like I was the only person. There was never anyone around, and they'd just go, "Oh, good guy." I'd be like, "I'm coming in there, lads." Basically, like, how's it going?
How you getting on?
They would just go off to a holding pattern because they just can't be anywhere near the little idiot in this fixed wing. Like,
I could see Barry giving the bottle nervous glances. You know what I mean? So I'd say we should get back to the whiskey, Barry. Is that what you're saying?
No, this is brilliant. No, I'm keeping an eye on the comments at the same time. Keep the audience happy. Give them what they want, but they're enjoying the stories. By the way, there's a great sailing documentary. I watched it. I've been meaning to watch it for a while, and actually got it on the plane coming over just the other day. And it's called Maiden, and it's about the first women, all-women crewed Whitbread round the world racing team in 1989, 1990. Tracy Stewart was the skipper, and it's a remarkable documentary of women in a man's world, proving that not only could they enter, but they ended up winning 2 of the legs of the Whitbread round the world race. And it's a very moving documentary, but a really great insight into the challenges of deep water sailing and fast sailing, like on these massive Whitbread yachts. But a great documentary called Maiden.
It's a weird world. It's, you know what I mean? When you get into it, you realize it's a total world unto itself, even the lingo and everything, you know what I mean? And when we joined the Navy, you used to see it a lot, that any of the young fellas who came in there'd be a lot of pranks played on the young fellas, like, you know what I mean? And particularly, I remember going into Dublin, and you know, the lift bridges are coming into Dublin there, you know? And anytime you're coming into a port on one of the naval vessels, you'd have a load of lads up the front of the ship. In case something happened, they'd be able to drop the anchor, stop the ship, wouldn't move, you know? And we're coming up to the lift bridge in Dublin one day, and the youngest fella, it was tradition, was handed an envelope. And it was an envelope full of change. And this to him, listen, go up there to the front now and throw that up to the toll man and make sure he gets it, because if he doesn't get that, we're not getting into Dublin for the weekend, and the whole crew is going to come back to you. So this young fella, 18, 19 years of age, just in the Navy, you know, straight out of school, knew no better. And so he goes up with the handful of change in the envelope and throws it up, and there's a big roar goes up, and then all of a sudden it falls into the water in front of the toll bridge, and everyone just goes, jeez, what are you after doing, like, you know? And the young fella turns around and he was distraught, like distraught is the only word. And he turned around because he thought it cost the entire crew a weekend in Dublin, you know, which was quite a rare thing. And someone just pulled him aside and said, "Here, listen, don't worry, it's okay. We're only messing with you." And you've never seen relief on a man's face like that. Like, you know, he was just delighted that he hadn't cost this weekend on the lash in Dublin to the lads, like, you know. But it's a different world, and you're thrown in at the deep end, like, you know.
But sure, if you came home from times at sea and you'd talk to friends you'd grown up with on land, you couldn't tell them the stories because they'd have no reference points, and it just wasn't worth telling them the stories because they just wouldn't get it. And they'd say, what was it like? You'd be like, there's Grant, no bother.
Yeah.
Grant. How are you getting on?
You know yourself, like, you know. I mean, there was points where, especially when I was trained in the Defence Forces, and you're taught to be, you know, you have to clean everything. Everything has to be straight lines. Everything is shaved. Everything is laces. And you know, I'd be looking at my friends' laces tied on their shoes, and they'd be tied wrong, and it'd be upsetting me. You know what I mean? That was the kind of level of stuff you were at, like, you know. It's just
the Navy training, and there was
it was funny. It was a funny time in my life.
But sure, you had to do it when you're young. I've often said that, like, being at sea is not a job for an older person. Like, it's a different world. If you're still there in your 50s and 60s, that's your life. Like, that's it. It's 100% your life. There is no life ashore. No sooner are you ashore, you're wanting to go back again, because everything you have is on the ship, which wasn't for me. And not to say it's a bad thing. Some people love that, but I had to get away at some point. Like,
yeah, it's a weird lifestyle. I mean, I don't know, what's the longest you spent at sea, Dahi? Like, I was the longest I was away from Ireland was about
5 nights.
Was that it? Yeah, okay. So the longest I was away from Ireland was about 120 days, and then the longest I was ever at sea in one period was about 21, 22 days, like, you know.
Yeah. And
even at that, you'd be crawling the walls. But I had mates who were six months without seeing land, like. And he genuinely said to me, he was like, I was going mad by the end of it. Like, he said he got into the car with the old fella when the old fella collected him, you know, from the airport. And because you've been doing 12 knots, so whatever, 14, 15 miles an hour, and you're looking out the window for 4 or 5 months, and he got into the car with the old lad, and the old lad was driving 100k down the motorway. He said he was nearly holding on to the thing, he was strapping himself in, you know. It's just, yeah.
I'd come home from the ship, and I'd be sitting in the mother's house, and I'd be looking up at the shelves, and she'd have ornaments that were very close to the edge of the shelf, and I'd go over and I'd push them back because I'd be afraid that if we had rough seas that night, they'd all fall off the shelf.
It's amazing how it conditions you, you know.
Yeah, no,
we won't keep going on ships, but one story there, because it just dawns on me, like, talking about how it's a different world, a different life. So my last job on ships was, I was the provisions master. So my job was like stocking the ship and getting deliveries in port for the cruise ahead, you know. And I remember the night before coming into Fort Lauderdale, which was our big loading port, and it was kind of where the passengers got off and other passengers got on. We still had 3 pallets of white flour in the stores, and 3 pallets the night before loading was too much because there was only just enough space in the ship for exactly what you needed. So if we arrived in port with 3 pallets of flour, there'd be no way to get the new stock in. So we were racking our brains. There was me and 2 Filipino lads who were running the stores together. And I thought to myself, how are we going to get rid of this? And one of them said, we'll just throw the flour overboard. And I called up anyway to the bridge, to the captain. I said, crazy idea, but would you mind if we threw 3 pallets of flour overboard? And he said, not a hope. He said, we're within 12 miles ashore. He said, you're actually in American waters now. We can't throw paper overboard. I said, there's no way we can do the loading tomorrow if we don't get rid of the flour. And he goes, you'll have to find another solution. So I went back down to the Filipino lads. Very resourceful fellas altogether. And one of them said, why don't we just open the bags of flour and pour the flour into the water? Because that's technically not littering. Like, there's no paper, there's no plastic. We're just pouring flour in there. We're just making a roux, really, like in the ocean, you know? And so I called up to the bridge and I said, crazy idea. Is there any chance you could slow down a bit for about 10, 15 minutes? Because I want to open the side loading door. If you give me permission, we're just going to unload the flour, but we'll bring the paper back in so we won't litter. And the captain said, no chance, no way. So I went back to the Filipino lads and they said, well, there's no other solution. So I went to the hotel manager and said, look, here's our solution. He called the captain, convinced the captain. The captain said, you have 5 minutes. So he slowed the ship down for 5 minutes. I opened up the side loading door. And what I did was I tied a rope around one of the Filipino lads, right, around his waist. And I had him climb out. So the doors open out, right? Like they open out and along the side. I had him climb out onto the door. So we're now doing about 8 or 9 knots coming into Fort Lauderdale. And what we did was we had a bit of rope around him, tied to him, and then onto the side of the ship. And what I did was I handed him a knife. I said, put that in your mouth. So he put the knife in his mouth. Then I handed him a 50-pound bag of flour. And he sliced it open. And he dumped all the flour. He dumped all the flour out, right? Gave me back the paper bag. Next one, kept at it. 5 solid minutes, got rid of all the bags, right? So we'd all the bags now that we could burn. That was fine. Anyway, he comes to step back in. He's head to toe like Casper the Ghost. He's pure white, covered in flour. I was able to call the bridge back and say, job done. We got rid of the flour. We got the paper bags.
That's
but our dad down here needs a shower.
That's like one of those stories you get in a health and safety course going, and this is how it went wrong.
We never saw him again.
Possibly go wrong. Yeah.
Oh God.
I love the way Barry gave it to the Filipino chap. Roped him up and sent him out. Barry was the senior man, pal.
Yeah, I had the stripes. I had the 2.5 stripes, like.
You just tap the shoulder. That's what you do. That's it. That's how the line structure works.
Good old times, sir. Good old times.
That's a good one.
Anyway,
I poured Bushmills, by the way, while we were.
I have a Glendalough 13, the mizunara cask finish.
Which 2008 Muscatel I poured.
Very good, yeah.
Good man. Michael, why don't you tell us about? We've had the mizunara on here before, but give us another rundown on the most floral nose in whiskey, in Irish whiskey. For my mind.
No. So look, I have very good information. I was handed a bottle of Glendalough Mizunara earlier, and I when I was looking for malt, and it's a fantastic.
By whom, Michael? Who handed you a bottle of this?
No, well, the better half in my life, Jenny works for Glendalough, so Jenny from the Loch handed me a bottle of 13-year-old Mizunara. And she said go forth. And no, it's a fantastic whiskey. Look, the Mizunara is a fantastic wood, really, really difficult to work with, and it's hugely expensive. You look at we always talk about bourbon casks and sherry butts, right? So bourbon cask, $200, $100, whatever it is, right? So sherry butt, maybe $1,000, something like that. When you get into Mizunara, you're talking $5,000-$6,000, that kind of price range. And it's just because the wood is so difficult to work with, doesn't necessarily grow straight. This one it's one of the only independent only independent cooperages in Japan constructed the barrels for the guys, and it's a really, really porous wood. So again, it's really difficult to work with. A lot of angels share from using it then as well. But you get these, like you're saying, Barry, massively floral notes. Like I always get coconut with Mizunara. Like I just think it's a fantastic whiskey. You're getting these big coconutty, fruity notes and stuff that you don't get from Quercus robur or Quercus albus, so American white oak or European oak, So I think it's Quercus Mongolia is the actual genus species of the oak. So you're getting a totally different species of oak. So you're getting a totally different influence as well, you know. So you're losing a lot more whiskey through evaporation, but you're also gaining a lot more in terms of flavor. But that's what makes it so expensive, and that's what makes it a particularly unique whiskey. I don't know how much is left out there in Ireland. I'm not sure there's a whole lot, but they were certainly I'm reasonably confident saying they were the first ones in Ireland to do a mizunara cask finish as well. And I just think it's a quality whiskey, and I was very happy.
Pick one of those.
Do you want? I was told it's not all for me, and I have to bring some back, so I can't finish the bottle, like, you know.
Yeah, if there's some available still, I must get one, because I think Phil Crawford was saying recently it's one of his top 5 whiskies.
Yeah, it's a cracker.
It's a bounty. It's that bounty chocolate bar. I think he might have referred to it as that coconut and chocolate.
That is a perfect. Yeah. That is a perfect explanation, because coconut for me is to the forefront with mizunara, and certainly with this one as well. And I think that bounty chocolate is a great explanation of it. In fairness to Phil, sometimes he's right. Sometimes he knows what he's talking about. Right. He's the crankiest man in Irish whiskey, but sometimes he knows what he's talking about.
The mizunara tree, the oak tree, grows not like a traditional oak tree, like an American oak tree or even a European oak tree. It grows out rather than up, and so it doesn't really have very straight. The wood isn't straight, and so finding the straight pieces for even the staves to make the staves, the barrel is hard enough. I think it was historically used for expensive high-end furniture in Japan rather than whiskey barrels prior to World War II.
But so when you get a really porous wood, there's a few concerns around it. You're concerned that the whiskey's going to leak out, for one, but you're going to get great flavor. So you take something like chestnut, right? So we've seen chestnut used in Irish whiskey, and you're losing about 7% a year when you're using chestnut initially, but you're getting loads of flavor. And it's the same with mizunara. You're getting a huge amount of flavor, but you're going to lose quite a lot, and you're going to have that risk of leak as well, and you really need really skilled craftspeople to make these. And when you're talking about, it's 5 times the cost of a sherry butt, and it's well, I'm not going to do live maths, but it's a multiple the cost of a bourbon cask.
Graham Fraser wondering who else uses mizunara. We know that Writer's Tears, Walsh whiskey uses it. Teeling may be doing something with mizunara. Teeling do something. You name the wood. Teeling probably have something to do with it.
That's very true. And Teeling bring out stuff sometimes, and I'm going, what even is that? And it's but I think Writer's Tears, and I'm sure there's a few other distilleries out there who have it and have it laid down. Dahi, do you have any?
Not yet. The price was just I had it. It was one of the first things I wanted to do, and then as I contacted a few cask wholesalers, and I got the prices, and I went, no, I can buy full casks of really old whiskey for that same. And there's very few of them actually leave Japan even. So again, it just all adds into that price. And so if you do see about, I think
the 13-year-old, the fact that it's a 13-year-old, not a 12 or a 14, famously or mythologically a hat tip to Brian O'Driscoll, rugby player, former investor in Glendalough. That is a fact. That is a fact. Yeah, no, it's not a myth. Not a myth.
It is genuinely a fact. No, it is a genuine fact. It was a hat tip, and I think, they thought. I think there was contractual issues with Guinness Pro 12 and all that kind of thing around Brian taking more of a part. But certainly it was it was certainly a hat tip to Brian. And I think, to be honest, 13, it's a little bit of a standout as well. And something around 100, 110 euros, I think it costs in Ireland if you can still find a bottle. But excellent whiskey.
Yeah,
I'll send you a drop, Dahi. Seeing as you so kindly sent me such a large drop of your whiskey, I'll send you an equally large sample of mizunara if you'd like. I found these. I found 5 milliliter sample bottles, so hopefully that'll be sufficient.
He's like Dory and Nemo. He forgets very quickly,
Sure, look, we all scratch each other's backs. John Byrne says, with the selection tonight, it's like the toy show for grown-ups. It is. We've got a great selection tonight altogether. Dahi, you're sipping now on the Bushmills 2008, the Muscatel, a remarkable whiskey altogether. One of the newest releases from the Causeway collection from Bushmills. You've had a few sips prior to tonight?
No, this is my first time trying it. Really like it. Really like it. Great to see Bushmills coming out, all guns blazing now with this Causeway collection. Releases popping up all over the world. Cask strength and higher ABVs. Some of them they're not all cask strength, but these two that come in Ireland were, and it's really great to see that because they make such fantastic whiskey. So
a long time waiting, aren't we, for something so remarkable? The last big, I think, whiskey drinkers release from Bushmills would have been Bushmills 21. Would have been the thing that got most people excited, but it's been many years since that was released. And so these two releases, I believe, are the first two of as many as 9 in the collection. So you'll have to remortgage your house.
I've seen Germany has a cognac cask.
Yep.
46.
America's got the same, a 28-year-old cognac.
And no, there's a 10-year-old cognac in Germany.
Oh, is there a 10-year-old? Interesting.
Yeah. And I think Australia has their one out as well now. I can't remember what that one is.
There's a 30-year-old coming as well. A 30-year-old in, I think, virgin American oak.
Wow.
To the best of my knowledge. Jesus,
that'd be interesting. But we've all had, there's been some great independent bottlings via Scotland, actually, from allegedly from Bushmills. But I think we all know where it comes from, and there's been some fantastic whiskey out of Ireland, that probably came from Bushmills as well that we know, but not from themselves. And that's what's quite interesting about this. And
getting the name Bushmills on the label.
Yeah. It makes no sense that they don't do it. I guess they're part of a big ecosystem, and they're a small cog in it possibly, and that's what happens. And they seem to be moving now though. So
100%.
Quite exciting because it's a global brand. One of the it's a very well known whiskey. For me it'll be as well known as I would say than anything that has Middleton on it outside of Jameson.
Yep. Massive audience in America, most well known in the United States. Great to see Single Malts at this end being released. So for those who aren't aware, like Bushmills only produces single malt whiskey in the distillery. They don't make grain whiskey. They'll buy in their grain whiskey and they'll blend it with their single malt to produce their blends. But they are a pure single malt, have always only made single malt whiskey. And there isn't a distillery on the island of Ireland that knows and understands single malts like Bushmills. And I think for years we've been deprived of the good stuff. And I think a lot of their stock ended up in their blends or was sold on as third-party stock. But to your point, Dahi, now to see it with the Bushmills name on it, big fan, big supporter, and everything they've done with this has been beautiful. The 2008, the 1995, the branding, the packaging, beautiful, and just stunning, absolutely stunning. What do you make of the whiskey itself, the 2008?
Yeah, it's really good. Lots of citrus in there again, actually. Funny enough.
Yeah,
I guess that's Muscatel and PX are quite similar in many ways. I think they use a funny spelling on Muscatel in this one, but
that actually confused me a little bit because I remember chatting to someone about it's Muscatel versus Muscatel, and I was kind of like, is there something?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
organization of it of the spelling.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah,
same thing.
Those
whiskey,
pesky Americans.
You're getting
potato.
I think there's a lot of caramel and toffee on the nose, which is really the palate and the nose are completely different for me. They don't match up at all, which I like in whiskies. I think it can be quite interesting.
No color, no chill filtering, no color added, cask strength. These two releases, 1995 and 2008. So no fake tan. Look at that color, isn't it amazing?
Yeah, it's super fantastic.
It's rare to see a vintage.
No fake tan, yeah.
No fake tan. Isn't it rare to see a vintage in a whiskey? We know it from Middleton, very rare, but we don't often see a vintage. We see a year, like a 12-year-old, not a 2008. So this is an 11-year-old or a 12-year-old, but it doesn't say that. 11-year-old, yeah.
I think and you'll see it in Scotch a little bit with particular distilleries. You know what I mean? Glenrothes and Glenfarclas and a couple of others. But yeah, it is a rarity nowadays as well. You know, and even when you see a Middleton vintage, you know, a 2020 or 2019, it's the year it was bottled as opposed to the year it was laid down, because obviously in those Middleton very rares, you've 30-plus-year-old whiskies in them. You know, so it is a little bit different in terms of what they're doing.
There's a
touch, actually. I think it works really well. The year it was distilled rather than the age statement on it. Because like, at the end of the day, what's the difference between 11 and a half and 12? Really, like it's
6 months probably.
Yeah, like it's no, but it could be a day. But it just.
I know, yeah.
I think why not take that approach that wine does and that some of the companies do.
And if it works as a thing, you know what I mean? If it's right and it's ready to go at 11 and a half years, you don't need to leave it to 12. Like, you know what I mean? If it's working at that point, you don't need to labor the point and drag it out either, I suppose.
But it's really good. I like it. And I have the Malaga as well. I have the Malaga here as well. So
the Malaga I found a lot sweeter and maybe a little smoother. There's a bite to this, but it's nice. It burns my lips a little bit, but that might be the 16 whiskies I put on my lips so far today that have eroded the surface of my lips. But there's a lovely dark fruit, stewed dark fruit to this, and a lovely little biscuitiness that kind of creeps through on the palate.
Yeah, I get like burnt raisins, or it's not a million miles from PX. It's very close.
Stunning drop.
You can eat, there's a nice, there's a great texture on it. Real nice mouthfeel. Warms up the cheeks, and no, I really
it does.
There's a bit of eating in it.
Cheers, you need a knife and fork for it. John Byrne wondering, do we think Bushmills' strength in single malt has a connection to its geographical location, the closeness to Scotland? The cheek of him. John Byrne, put those questions away. So
Excommunication.
Listen, the Scottish are only shipwrecked Irish, and it was the Irish that went over and taught them how to distill. So if anything, the proximity is the other way around. That the Scots are making single malt is because of what we were making in Ireland. I think we can all agree. But yeah, look, they are pretty close at their closest point. What, 20 miles, 15 miles apart?
Yeah.
Ireland.
Well, it's less. I think it's about 6. You can nearly throw. Well, you can throw a big rock. You know what I mean? If you're a big man, you can throw a rock back.
It was a very tall man one time that did that. So
and he created a lovely cause.
Cork man, I'd say.
He was a Cork man. I think he took 2 or 3 strides up from Cork and landed up in the Causeway Coast, wasn't it?
Did you ever see the down in Cork? They do road bowling. A good Cork tradition on a Sunday.
I've seen that. Yeah.
The old men in the suits and the paddy caps, and they're walking the country roads, and there could be 100 of them moving in a pack, and they have a big iron ball, and the goal is to get it as far along the road as you can, and you have to throw your arm like a windmill and let it fly. But and as you're coming into Cork from West Cork, there's the viaduct, and have you ever seen that viaduct? And there's the viaduct pub underneath it.
Yeah.
And there's famously a competition to throw that bowl over the viaduct.
Jesus.
Really?
And there's pictures in the pub.
There's good weight in a barrel, like.
Oh, jeez, there's good.
That's one. Is that the highest viaduct in Ireland?
It could well be, but you have to stand with the viaduct to your back, and you throw it that way over your head, and hopefully over the 80 odd feet or 100 feet up over the viaduct. But it's amazing what passed for crack back in the day, like.
Yeah, also known as gambling, I'd just like to say.
lads will find any way they can to entertain themselves, Barry. You know this, I know this. Like, you know what I mean? Let's not get back to Tales of the Sea, but like, when you're stuck for options of what to do, like, you know what I mean, lads. Hold on, that got a bit weird there in the middle. Now, I just want to say, no, look, let's cancel that statement. All right, you know what I mean?
It's a really great day out, though. It's a really great day out.
They're all bowling.
It's so,
it's pure.
It's brilliant, like. But their money being gambled is.
Oh, jeez! You could buy a house with the money, with the winnings, like. Yeah.
There is cash everywhere, like wads of it, wads.
Cash money.
It's like
Yeah.
you could be in a mafia movie, but in West Cork.
Well, they'll have to move to contactless now. You know what I mean? That's the way it's all gone now. You know.
It's quite close. It's actually more of a just on the outskirts of Cork city. It's still retained mostly, isn't it, Barry?
I mean, they still do it in Cove, out in the back of the island of Cove.
Yeah, you don't have
find
to go far to the country like to find it.
Like I remember growing up.
That's wild land out there, Barry.
Jeez, that was wild land, all right. And you only a stone's throw from civilization, but still, it was a wonderful thing to turn the corner in the car on the Sunday drive and see a rake of men throwing an iron ball at you. There was nothing like it, you know.
Yeah,
it's definitely worth a Google or a YouTube for anybody who's watching and who's going, what are these lads on about? Because it is, there's a good few like different documentaries from RTE and BBC about these lads out swinging this ball around like in the middle of the road. You know,
it's called bowling, but it's spelled bowling, like you would in America bowling, but road bowling is a thing. And if you just Google road bowling Cork. Because I'm going to look into it a bit more, but I'm convinced it's
bowling Cork.
Road bowling Cork. Yeah, exactly. You'll find it. And while you're searching for old historical things like that, there's a great Twitter clip or Twitter video of a man talking about cows with a Cork accent. I don't know if have you ever seen that video? And it was is
it a Cork accent or a Kerry accent? Cork, is it?
Oh, this is from it's clips taken from Reeling in the Years, and there's one called I think there's a Twitter account called Reeling in the Oddity or something like that. It takes the oddest things from this show, Irish show, Reeling in the Years, and it's a man in the 1960s. It's black and white. And he's dressed in a suit and he's the flat cap on, and he's staring intently at the interviewer, talking about how if you're walking down the road and you meet a cow, you can tell immediately where that cow is from, because Cork cows would say moo, whereas an Athlone cow might just be like moo. And he says there's that unmistakable lilt to a Cork cow accent, and pure deadpan, like 100% believed it. So that'd be worth googling as well if you're researching.
But they say this about roosters. They say it about everything, that they crow differently in different parts of the world and different countries. So look, who knows, Barry? I'm rural, but I'm not that rural, so I'm not 100% sure.
We have Laura
Barry. Sorry, I just, before you even read this, of course she was, Laura. Of course she was, yeah.
We have bowling royalty in our midst tonight. Laura Barry, artist and teacher, and Dick Max, a team member extraordinaire. Her grandmother was a road bowling All-Ireland champ. Laura, if there's photographs or videos, you'll have to send them on to us.
TikToks as well, they'll be fine.
TikToks.
Yeah. If your granny was on TikTok and she created any old videos, like, send them on. They do well.
Oh, stop.
The Irish Road Bowling Championships, as brought to you by Stories and Sips.
Here, while we have Laura here, and I have this right beside me, can I show what Laura has put together? This is a beautiful print of the back kitchen of Dick Max that Laura painted, and I have it here.
Class.
Very cool.
To be fair, it is instantly recognisable as well, isn't it, you know?
And she called it on Cool Kitchen, Osquelga, the back kitchen. And Laura was kind enough to send me on this lovely print. And what a coincidence, I had it here beside me as she's talking about her nana road bowling around Ireland.
Yeah, no, we all believe it's a coincidence, Barry. Yeah, absolutely.
All coincidence, yeah.
Imagine trying to script this malarkey, like, imagine it.
It'd be absolute. If this was all scripted, it'd be absolute genius. Like, you know what I mean, you'd be going, "Geez, that Barry Chandler fella's an absolute genius, isn't he?"
You couldn't write this stuff, honestly. They wouldn't believe it.
Put some people with whiskey and let them talk, and you get
three absolute bluffers and charlatans. You know what I mean? Leave them away.
People seem to enjoy it. People seem to enjoy the crack, like.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Road bowling shirts instead of turtlenecks, says Chris Connor. No, there'd be no getting rid of the turtleneck. That's the uniform now. That's the uniform.
I say we start a road bowling team. Crazy idea, you know?
Yeah.
Never played before. Never been to a match. But I reckon I'd be good.
I can get behind that.
I'll take you on, Michael.
Yeah, no, this is the confidence only comes after about 6 whiskies. You know what I mean? And I believe, I believe I could be an All-Ireland champion. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm just going to put it there, and we'll come back to that a little later.
Well, you know, the spirit of '96 is alive and kicking in you. So
Here you go. Laura's thrown down the gauntlet here. Cork versus Wexford Road Bowling Championship out in Schleehead next summer.
there you go.
Sounds like a plan.
Imagine getting an iron bowl around Schleehead, like.
Have you ever, like, I remember driving Schleehead last summer, and 2 cars couldn't even, you know what I mean? We had to reverse the car back up the road, and I was raging because I had a Dublin reg, and I was going, it's just definitely Dubs there that can't drive down the road, like, you know what I mean? They're not used to the country, and I was only raging. I had a Dublin reg because I was like, they're all thinking I'm a Dub now as well.
And rather Dubs are their tourists in rental cars. It's one or the other.
Yeah, it is one or the other. No, but I remember a fella from Kerry getting out behind them and just going, come on. No, you're fine. You have an 8 car space there. You're grand. Come on.
I remember Barry was recently down in my own neck of the woods down in West Cork, and I lived very close by to where Barry was staying, and I remember a couple of Dubs coming down from the missus side of the family to visit us, and I was, you know, they were supposed to follow me back to Castle Townsend, Barry. You know, if you were heading back.
Lovely spot, yeah.
From Tregumna. So if you left your house and just drove that road back, and I was just tipping along grand, like nothing crazy, and a minute later I couldn't find him anywhere, and I stopped, pulled in, put on the hazard, going, Jesus, I think they might have had an accident or something. And next minute I see this car creeping around the corner, like. Definitely, it was a scene from Driving Miss Daisy. It was this this Dublin person driving their high-powered BMW at 15 kilometers an hour around the road because they thought the roads were so narrow, and it was crazy. And there was grass going out to the sides.
That's some road there.
I literally just went. I said, do you know what? Just follow this road for 5 miles and I'll meet you there because I'm not waiting for you. And
yeah, no, I see you in an hour and a half.
Yeah, her brother was going 40 kilometers an hour or something. That was, you know, and she had this sports car.
Is there that town, Castle Townsend? I'd never been there before until a few weeks ago. It's like something out of a movie. It's like a Hollywood director came over and said, do you know what a town in Ireland should be? It should have a castle on a harbour, a little pier for your boat, and then all the beautiful stone houses lead down to this pier. Oh, and there's a church then in the graveyard to bury you. It's something out of a Hollywood, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very
British,
I guess. You know.
Have you seen
the guy who used to put the tires on my car in Skibbereen is from the Castle Townsend. His family. He lives on another property within the house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the car tire centre in Skibbereen. So there you go, and he is a Townsend.
Only in Ireland would there be a conversation that says the lad who used to put the tires on my car. As if
you should write that story down, Dahi. That was class. Like, and I mean, this is the entertainment we're here for. Dahi's going to tell us where he used to get the tires put on the tires put on the car, like, you know.
No, but he's from that. Like, the town is
Mother of God, like, you know, the people come here for entertainment.
The castle, the Townsend family.
Yeah. I found it amusing that he was putting tires on cars. Sorry, no offense to people who put tires on cars.
Well, no, we found it endlessly amusing too, and thank you for sharing it. It is a great story.
I can stop talking now.
That's a lovely part of the world, though, isn't it? Did you like living down there in Skibbereen?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, it was really nice. Like we were like you know where we were. It was quite remote, so
it's perfect.
Pretty idyllic. It's pretty idyllic, really. You know, but not really practical.
But like I think we had that conversation on Twitter about the best super value in Ireland happens to be in Skibbereen. Like,
oh yeah,
you know,
yeah. It's unreal. Super value. It is.
It's unreal.
I'm going to chime in here. I haven't been there in years, but I remember walking in and going,
"Feels
this is class. This is just."
They were bakers by trade, you see, and they had a great bakery section and fantastic fresh bread.
That's right. They have their own bread. Yeah.
And then they put a lot of effort into their fresh fish counter and their meat counter.
It's unreal. Like we were walking around there. There's probably 4 of us in the store. Admittedly now height of COVID, but 4 of us in the store where there was probably 800 tons of fresh food, and you're wondering who's going to buy all this. Like it's amazing. Like it's just beautiful stuff. Yeah.
No, so we've lost all the viewers at this point.
There's 2 people left, and that's no. The numbers are actually growing surprisingly, and I don't know why, but
I have no idea. I think they just like the crack. I think what it is, Barry, is people haven't been in a pub in so long. Certainly Irish people haven't been in a pub having the crack and having stupid drunk talk for a while and talking about the best super value in Ireland. Like, and I mean, so they're probably
the bar for entertainment has gone way down. Like the bar's been lowered
at this point. Yeah, that they're going, geez, this reminds me of that time I was in the pub and we were talking absolute nonsense. And sure, look, the lads are sound. Like.
Every time in the pub. Name a time in the pub where you didn't talk absolute nonsense.
But tell me this: when this all ends, whether it's this year or next year, whenever the bloody pubs open up and the world comes back to some sense of normality, where's the dream destination that you want to go in Ireland? Like where are you heading to for the crack?
Job 1, Dingle. Yeah, Dick Max, Dingle. Gonna ring Finn. Yeah. Gonna say, keep a room for me there, pal. I'll be down. Don't worry about it.
That's it.
You know, and that's where I go. I absolutely
for like a week.
Place, like. Yeah,
a week long.
Like, honest God, I went down and Finn was very kind, and he occasionally rents out the rooms or whatever above the bar, and I was there for a couple of nights, and then I was there for a couple more, like, and then because I was like, sure, I won't leave yet, like, you know, I'll take another couple of days. Sure, we'll stay down for another. It's just, I just love it. Like, it's my favorite. It's probably
Paradise.
My favorite part of Ireland. It is,
yeah.
And you go down to some of the beaches there in Kerry. And it's like you're in the Amalfi Coast or something. Like, it's a bit colder, all right. And you get into the water and you realise you're not in Italy. But it's just class.
It's unreal.
Just class,
it's unreal.
You know?
It's funny. I'm looking over there to my left, and Mrs. Stories and Sips wearing a Dick Max sweatshirt. Do you want to show the Dick Max sweatshirt? No, you don't have to show your face. Like,
I've never seen her, Barry. I don't think she exists.
You don't think she exists? You think I talk to the wall? Is it? I turn to the left and I go, "How are you, wall? I mean, how are you, Stories, Mrs. Stories?"
Are you saying that's beyond the realms of possibility?
Will you walk behind me, love, without showing your face and just show your sweatshirt? Go on. You won't be seen. Would you just show your sweatshirt? How do we get to show you? She's like, no. She's busy making some kind of vegetable reduction over there.
I know that Barry's going to be absolutely buckled for any vegetable reductions. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's as far from a vegetable reduction now I was raised. Like,
I think, and one other trip I'd like to make is Willie Clancy week. I'd love to get back there. That is
in Clare. Yeah,
you could do one thing in Ireland. If you had one trip to Ireland, you could only do one thing, and you never could come back again. I would say go to Willie Clancy week because you would get it all in one place.
I want to meet that goat who's king of the town.
That's Killarglen, Puck.
Yeah, it's
King Puck.
You know? I want to go meet that goat. Like, you know, I want to know why he's the king of the town. I want to talk to him. I want to look him in the eye, and I want to say, why have the mage is the king of the town? And for anybody that doesn't know, Barry, you probably have a better explanation than I do, or do you?
King Puck.
Yeah. You're generally better at the historical stuff than I am in these kind of festivals. Like, you know?
Well, Killarglen has historically crowned the king goat, the pride of the town, the almighty goat. There's a festival every year, and that's he's crowned, and he I think he passes laws and signs off on legislation for Killarglen every year himself. And
he's hyped at 100 feet in the air, is he, or 50 feet in the air at the top of the hill?
Yeah, he is.
He's put him in a cage there for the week, don't they? You know?
He's up high, and I think the first car that gets registered in Kerry every year gets given to him, and he gets to drive around in it. And he's like
the
king.
CORK, but
he is. Exactly. He drives the Ford Granada Gaia edition.
This is so parochial, this conversation. Like, it's
honestly what we're doing is we're promoting tourism to our American brethren, because lads, if you want to come to the Strawberry Fair in Wexford now, that's the real winner. Like, you know,
don't worry about that.
Is there any songs about Wexford strawberries? Like, they're such a part of Irish culture, And by culture, I mean they're sold on the side of the road. But is there anything? Is there any songs or aurons related to Wexford that are familiar to us?
There's a lot that are related to Wexford, but there's none that are specifically related to strawberries. Most of the ones related to Wexford have to do with rebellion and throwing an old pike into a British fella or something like. I mean that seems to be the majority of the songs that we have.
An old pike.
So yeah, you have the 1798 rebellion, which Wexford is famous for, which was the pikemen because they couldn't afford guns. And the only other major songs we have are about winning the 96 All Ireland, which is still
one of the classics.
Absolutely. If you were ever in Quinn's pub in Drumcondra about Thursday night when that song came on, the dance floor was clear. That's how it was. Nick Ryan. Oh, here we go now. Nick is in.
Historian, whiskey man, spirit educator Nick Ryan, Thomond Gate Whiskey, has given us the story on the King Puck, the goat in Killorglin. A goat ran into the village to give people warning of the troops of Cromwell coming. He was like a historical.
That's the key part of that sentence.
Yeah, it wasn't Cromwell coming for the crack like Paddy Flaherty.
He wasn't coming for a pint in Falvies.
He was a historical flipper, like Flipper the dolphin. He'd come and warn you of danger. This was a goat.
What's that, Skippy? Timmy fell down the well. What a goat, like. But actually, when Nick is on there, actually, it's important to say that Nick with Thomond Gate Whiskey, I think he has his new whiskey out next week as well. So again, wouldn't tell me what it is, but he just said he just told me it's out next week. So to keep an eye on it, I think it's.
I'll tell you what Nick's is. I know.
Do you know?
I know what it is too. I know what his whiskey is too, but we can't say a word. This seems to be a night of we have no information for our audience whatsoever. We just talk about what we don't know.
It's we have no information, but save your money for next week because there's a lot of stuff coming. Like, you know what I mean?
Look,
save your money for December 12th.
If you have any money left over, having purchased a bottle of my whiskey, if you have any money left over, please spread that around the Irish whiskey world.
Barry, you're now an independent bottler.
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
I'm just standing on the shoulders of W.D. O'Connell.
No, it must be awkward for Michael there, and I've been the only one here who hasn't brought out his own bottle.
I know, lads. I wouldn't have the same amount of money as he, and I wouldn't be as old. I still have a few years left.
You can do it very cost effectively. You can with your ability to blackguard and promise great outcomes, you could do it.
Don't be telling people that.
I sold 1,000 cases into the local shop, and I told them, no problem. Everybody knows. It's fine. It's fine.
I mean, you can sell anything to any shop if you sell it on consignment, and they don't have to pay until they sell it. You can shift a lot of bottles altogether.
Yeah, but they'll all come back to you at the end of the day, Barry. Is the other problem at the side of it?
That's true. That's true.
Have we not seen that recently?
Let me see. What are the comments? I purchased all the bottles. Fiddler's Green. I don't have my own bottle, but I have my own can. MP has his own can. That's not bad. Not bad. Matthew wondering if the story is still available. It's not, Matthew. I'm sorry, we sold out. 100% sold out.
It'll be available on Irish whiskey auctions in about 2 weeks' time. So don't worry about
it. I have to say I have mixed feelings about seeing this bottle ending up on a whiskey auction site. I'll be quite honest with you because I know it will. Because I see some of the people who bought it and I know who they are. So I know it's coming.
Barry has a list. He knows which number has gone to you. You'll be on the naughty list now.
Listen, whiskey's for drinking, but look, hopefully, even if somebody buys it on the auction site, they'll end up drinking it themselves. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
No, fair. And I think some people, especially they want to have complete collections of things So yeah, they'll be willing to pay for them.
I understand. There's JJ Corrie fans out there.
I drank all the Malaga. It was lovely.
Are you on the Malaga or the Muscatel?
But no, I've done the Muscatel and I finished the Malaga while we were talking about road bowling and.
Should I grab my Malaga?
That's what I got.
So I might go on to a Dunville's actually. This is I'm a big fan of Dunville's.
Oh, lovely.
I'm looking at the press and I've nothing but scotch.
Listen, you won't. You have to stop there now.
Look, I'll go back to the old reliable and I'll go back to the Bill Phil.
Oh, well, you can't go wrong with that.
Herself will kill me if I drain the bottle of Glendalough, you know what I mean? So,
Lads, this is the bottle of Bushmills Malaga that fell out of my hands while I was trying to do a video down in Skibbereen and floated away. And the back of the bottle's all chipped.
Well,
but it survived.
Can you imagine if it had a smash? Like, it would have been tears.
You should have seen the crack. I was laughing my head off, jumping out of the way of the waves, and we look back, and there it is, floating away.
It wouldn't be the first time bottles of whiskey were floating around West Cork, I'd say.
There was stories of other illicit substances floating around before as well, I think, you know.
Are you suggesting smuggling?
Yeah.
I think, Barry, isn't there an entire movie about it? I think, isn't that what the Young Offenders movie is based on?
Well, you were in that world of policing the shores and policing the coast, Michael, weren't you? And ensuring that no errant yachts that weren't declared made it to shore.
Exactly. And one of the errant yachts, one of the ribs that was meant to be collecting said cash from errant yacht, put diesel instead of petrol in the engine, or put petrol instead of diesel, one or the other, and they couldn't get ashore, and the whole thing flipped, and there was about 200 bales of cocaine floated up on the shores of West Cork, you know. So
I believe it was 400, but only 200 found.
Well, it was a fantastic weekend to be in Cork City, and joke, for the love of God, that was a joke, for the love of God.
The statute of limitations.
Also known as Johnny Depp.
when I was working on the ships back in the day, we had a Norwegian officers for the most part, and whenever we'd sail the ships into Norwegian waters and through the fjords, and I think the statute of limitations probably passed on this, but obviously taxes are very high on things like cigarettes and alcohol in Norway, and we have some Norwegian friends with us tonight. But in the dead of night, the ships would be slowed well down, and black plastic bags would be thrown overboard off the ship, and then you'd see small little shadows of inflatables coming out from the shore with little hooks to pull these black bags ashore. So the world of smuggling didn't end in the 1800s; it's still alive and well.
Oh, Barry, I don't know. Should you tell these stories on a live podcast? Like, I'm worried about you, pal. You know,
there's only 3 of them there. Don't worry about it.
Statute of limitations is passed. They'd have to prove it first of all, that it's not an old wives' tale.
Yeah, you just ruined it for all future seafarers going to the fjords. You know.
Can I just say, I see Johnny is saying leave the Scotch out of it. John's laying next. It just happens to be I have a bit of Scotch open in the press beside me. The majority of my collection and what I have and what I'd be drinking is Irish whiskey, but I do pick up a few Scotches and a few Americans from downtown.
We're all about single malt tonight.
We're all about single malt tonight. Yeah, absolutely.
We are all about single malt. We have a question here though that seems to be very important. What do we get Daniel Pennington for Christmas? Asking from his fiance and kids. And I think Daniel Pennington is also in the comments here. But what should Natalie? We'll help you out if we can. It might not be a surprise at the end of the day. But what should Daniel, the man who has everything?
No, I tell you, I'm in a whiskey group with Daniel, and we did an advent calendar. And in fairness to Daniel, he actually organised the whole thing. There was 25 of us in. We all sent in a bottle, and he divvied up the samples. And I was talking to him on the sly, and he said what he really missed out on, and what he really wanted, that nobody had sent him, was a bottle of Proper 12. And I think, Natalie, look, get him a bottle of Proper 12. Maybe get on to Connor, see if he can get a cast strength version.
Get it signed.
See if he can get a cast strength version, and I think that'd make all his Christmases, you know.
Listen now. Natalie has gone to the trouble of putting in a comment here. She's trying to give her fiance a nice gift, and you've thrown mud in her face with a suggestion of Proper 12. Let's be honest.
Well, Natalie, you know, we have some releases coming up that we can't tell you what they are, but definitely keep an eye out for those.
If you can save your money till the 12th of December, Dahi may be able to sell you something like that.
If you can save, we can't tell you how much money for a thing we can't tell you about, then you should be good.
I'll tell you the RRP. It's 140 euros RRP.
140 euros. Daniel's not worth 140 euros.
No, absolutely.
No,
280, get two.
If it wasn't for Daniel Pennington, let me be honest, if it wasn't for Daniel Pennington, I wouldn't have my 2008 Bushmills, because he pointed me out to carry out in Blackpool, where there was a couple of them squirreled away that I quickly acquired.
Yeah,
so thanks to Daniel for that.
He pocketed 5 of them himself.
Well, that's okay. He's allowed to do that.
Let's come back to actual suggestions now. Like, what should she actually get him?
He's a big Tullamore Dew Phoenix fan.
Yeah, I have a good 3/4 of bottle here. I'd be willing to part with.
Great gift.
£200. Yeah,
Great gift.
The mother has made a few Irish coffees out of it and hot whiskies, but like you can have the rest of it, no problem.
Other than that, it's brand new.
Look, I'll top it up with something else if you want. Like, you know what I mean? We can pretend it's the same thing.
Well, Tullamore Dew, he's a big fan of that, so that would be definitely one if you can get one.
Tullamore Dew Phoenix, if you can find it. Celtic Whiskey Shop have a few coming in. Keep your eye on that. Ask a Celtic Whiskey Shop if they could put one aside for him. He'd be delighted with that.
Yeah.
Irish Whiskey Crafts, as them Irish Whiskey Crafts, I think have the various different types of. I think you can see behind Dahi, they have he has the picture there, which is made by Irish Whiskey Crafts, but they do a variety of different things. So I think it's just something a little bit different. But look at that. That's pretty cool. In fairness, like, you know,
that's very impressive.
They do some great stuff. They do casks and they do pictures and they do various bits and pieces. Like, so I think it's nice, and you're supporting very local. Like, you know what I mean? You're supporting Wexford, and you're supporting local.
We actually have some of those coming in, so I'll send some over to you, Barry. You can give them out as prizes on Stories and Sips.
Oh, grand, Jad. Jackson Pollock meets Bill Phil. Who'd have thought of that combination? But here we have it.
I didn't design it. I do like it though. And actually, this was a book that was produced by someone in Cork, Barry.
You have my attention.
A good stocking filler. Monica.
You get the full screen for that, pal.
What was that?
You get the full screen. You're on your own here for that.
Yeah,
he was getting the full screen there so we could read it.
It's a craft cocktail book, and it's all Irish produce and whiskies and gins, poutines, etc., vodkas, and it's really nice, really high quality finish on it, and produced by Monica Collin from pepperazzi.ie on Instagram. So I think that deserves a shout out.
That's a good one.
Do you have any? Do you have a few cocktails in it? That you do?
I have 3 in there actually.
It wouldn't be like Dahi to push something he's involved with there at all, but fair play to you.
No, I've no.
We're only messing, big man. We're only messing.
It's really nice, really nice quality though. It's very different.
We also have lovely Stories and Sips boxes with glassware that Daniel may find very interesting around Christmas time.
Listen, I tell you,
sorry. We have W.D. O'Connell gold Tua glasses.
Listen,
and I've W.D. O'Connell masks somewhere, like, you know what I mean, or a few different types of masks. Like, if you're looking for them as well, like, give us a bell, give me a shout, give me a call.
Well, I feel like we've given no information whatsoever to help with the search here, but hopefully Daniel Pennington finds something nice under his tree, and I've no doubt that he'll be taken care of. No doubt. Christy Lee Ashley says this is one of the most entertaining Stories and Sips. Further proof that our removal from pubs and society has lowered the bar of entertainment so much that this can be classed as entertainment.
Well, this is the thing, like, you know, the people find it entertaining now at this point. The less structure you have on the Stories and Sips, Barry, obviously the better. I was chatting to Barry for about 5 minutes before this, and I said, we have a general outline, and I said we do this, and Barry says we do this and we do that, and I said, yeah, grand, and that was it. And now here we are, 2.5 hours later, and
It's a lock-in.
yeah.
There's no rules in a lock-in. You're locked in. You talk shite amongst each other, or occasionally a tune breaks out, or somebody will play an old violin or something, and you're happy out. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't
that's fair
answer the
enough.
phone, don't open the door, and you're good.
I remember
That's it.
we pulled into Killybegs one time above in Donegal, and we went in and we landed in this bar, and we started drinking anyway. And I said to your man behind the bar, I says, what time are you closing up? He says, don't worry about it. I said, what do you mean? He says, don't worry about it. No, I said, what about guards? He says, they'll come, they'll knock, we'll tell them to fuck off, and that's how it works. Sorry. We'll tell them we're not in, and that'll be that, and there's no problem. But I think the attitude up there seemed to be that you'd have a lot of fishermen and you'd have a lot of people coming in again from sea, and that they would have the facility to stay open and serve these lads at whatever time of the day they came in. I feel like Ryan Tuberty on the toy show earlier on. To me, to drop an F-bomb there, Barry.
That's all right. You're grand. We'll be kicked off YouTube and Facebook, but we had a good run. It's been a good old few months, and hey, listen, I had the crack, and as long as everyone else did as well, sure, look, on we go. We'll find other revenue streams in our future.
You see, the difference is it's 2:30 in the morning in Ireland. It's about 9:30 in America. Like, you know what I mean? So
it's only 6:30 where I am, lads. The joke's on you, like. I was you were talking about like the kind of the laid back nature of Ireland, and Killybegs, a rural outpost, of course, and to take 24 hours for a guard to get there should anything happen. And I think there's a dangerous line maybe between the lackadaisical nature of Irish law enforcement and crime, and the need to solve a crime. And I'll never forget, I was working in Galway, and I was part of opened a hotel there. I was part of the management team opening a hotel called the Westwood House out in Newcastle in Galway, and I was the bar manager. And I remember we opened up it was a fantastic, beautifully designed bar. And it was about 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night. And we just closed up. Everyone was gone. It was just me and about 8 others cleaning up the bar in there. And there's a rap on the door. And there's 2 guards standing there. And I'll preface this story by saying I have the greatest respect for guards, and this in no way represents the Irish police force. But 2 guards standing in there. And it was a brand new bar, brand new hotel. So I opened up the door and I said, how are you guards? How are you getting on? They said, do you mind if we come in and have a look around? I said, no, you're grand. Come on in. And they said, we've heard good things about the bar. And I said, okay. So they came in and they kind of walked upstairs, looked at the second floor, came back down. And just as they were coming down the stairs, didn't the night porter come down from reception with a tray of drinks that had been brought up for some residents, and they'd gone to bed, and he had this tray of drinks left. He was bringing them back to the bar, and the guards caught sight of this, and they said, who are the drinks for? And I said, oh, well, they were returned. The residents are gone to bed. And they said, you're not throwing them out, are you? And I said, well, yeah, we'd probably throw them out. And they said, slide over that tray to us there. and the 2 boys sat down at the counter and they polished off the tray. And they sat there anyway for, no joke, an hour, having the crack with, and there was a few people there was an Australian fella who worked in the pub with me at the time, the bar. His eyes were wide-eyed that he was able to sit there having an after-hours drink with the police, And after about an hour anyway, and the lads had polished off the tray, didn't one of the guards turn to the other and he goes, "Cheers, PJ, I suppose we should go out to the accident." She couldn't make it up. You couldn't make it up.
Barry,
I don't know if any of this. Should I delete these streams tonight? I think I should delete these.
Don't put these back up. Don't put this on back up.
I have these stories, and I'm not sure I should tell them. Those kind of ones. Like, it's just like, how is this going to play out at the end of the day? Like, But yeah,
we might have a few guards contacting us from the whiskey world. You never know.
Yeah, are there guards in the whiskey world? Oh my God! Yeah, you wouldn't know. I suppose they've nothing else to do. Like,
I know the guards are invested in property.
Yeah, no, they copper-faced jacks.
Only in Ireland, says Lena.
Laura knows the crack. Story that copper-faced jacks is incredible. The money that place makes.
Well, I mean, they make €1 million every year off the cloakroom, like, so yeah, does okay.
Can you explain to our American audience what Copperface Jack's is?
Yeah, Copperface Jack's is the nightclub in Dublin that is the most hip happening spot for everybody who's not from Dublin, who lives in Dublin. I think it had the third highest turnover of any nightclub in Europe for a good few years running, and that was including the likes of Ibiza and various famous club spots, because every single night you want to go into this place, it is packed and it is wedged with people, and it is famous for, if you would like to marry a member of the police force or a nurse or a teacher, then you are most likely to meet your future partner in this particular location, located in Dublin, and
owned by a former member.
Owned by a farm,
NRD.
the Garda Síochána, I think, yeah.
And I believe like retained earnings of something like 50 million euros of profits that have been banked and retained, like serious money made. It's the nightclub that, on the off chance you want to hear Cotton Eye Joe while dancing with somebody in a GAA jersey from Tipperary, that's your spot. Like, that's the place.
Yeah, and I used to get in for free with my Defence Forces ID. Guards get in for free. Nurses get in for free, as far as I know. Like, I mean, so it was going to be where you'd go. But it's funny because it's in Dublin, but most Dubs have never been there, and they would avoid it like the plague, because it's full of culchies like all of ourselves.
It's a bit like no New Yorker has ever been or would ever go to Times Square, No Dubliner would ever go to Copperface Jack's, or just Coppers as it's known in Dublin. But no better a spot if you want to jam out to a song from the 90s that hasn't been fashionable in 20 years while wearing boot flared jeans. That's your spot.
And get the shift.
Get the shift. Yeah. And if you miss your feet sticking to the floor in certain bars, like, that's where you go.
That's it, yeah.
I went there
for your American audience.
I went there last two years ago. After, it was the night before Whiskey Live. It was after the Whiskey Magazine Awards, where I think Billy Lighton had just been inducted into the Hall of Fame, Whiskey Hall of Fame, and there was a few of us, me and Nolly from Ashford Castle, and a bunch of us. We all ended up in Coppers.
You were in the Westbury beforehand.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we were in the Westbury beforehand.
I was talking to you. Yeah, I was talking to you. Yeah. I bought you a drink, Barry. Why don't you remember that?
Okay, so this was a night where I was still new to the world of whiskey. Everyone from Irish Distillers like Billy Lighton and all of these masters were just gods to me, because I just entered the world of whiskey and I was learning and soaking in all the knowledge. And after the Whiskey Awards, we went to the Westbury, where there was an Irish Distillers table, like in the Westbury Hotel. In the corner, there was Billy Lighton, Master Blender, Ger Garland, everybody from Irish Distillers from Bow Street and from Middleton were sitting there, and me and Michael, of course, and me and Nolly, who's the bar manager from Ashford Castle, and a couple of others were sitting on another table. And I kept looking over at the Irish Distillers table, and I thought, if we have enough old fashions inside us, we'd have the courage to go over and say hello, and introduce ourselves. And so we kept ordering old fashions, and we were knocking them back. And I spotted I saw my moment. Poor Billy Lighton's wife got up to go to the toilet, and I made my move.
On his wife, or the seat that she was sitting in?
She got up to go to the toilet. I saw the empty seat. I jumped into the warm seat, and I sat myself down. I said, "How are you getting on? I'm Barry Chandler. I'm a big fan of your whiskey." And I was 3 sheets to the wind. And poor Billy Lighton and Dave McCabe were sitting there going, "Hello, yeah, how are you getting on? Hi there." Being pure polite and nice as the gentlemen that they are.
Billy, the world's nicest man, like.
World's nicest man. And his wife came back looking for her seat. And sure, I was too busy in conversation with Billy to give it to her. God love her. But that's my introduction to the nice folks at Irish Distillers, like.
Yeah, no, I remember that night now. All right, like, that's good to have a crack. And Nolly, another absolute gent of the hospitality game, like,
an absolute gent.
I did a little bit of work with Nolly, and Nolly doesn't walk; he floats. You know what I mean? You turn around and Nolly's standing behind you, like, which is the mark of an excellent member of the hospitality community. They don't walk; they float, and they just appear behind you. They go, "Is everything all right?" And you go,
Jesus.
I'm slightly, yeah, exactly. I'm slightly terrified, but absolutely, yeah, no problem.
When the world opens back up, if there's a slice of Ireland that is more luxurious than Ashford Castle and more welcoming and just kind, I'd like to hear about it, because it's just a wonderful place, and the people there have worked there for 20 plus years. You can't get rid of them. They just know the place inside out.
Yeah, from Ashford Castle, and then even the Lodge, which is so Ashford Castle is the 5-star resort, and then the Lodge, which is the 4-star establishment, which is next door, which is still, it's probably the best 4-star place I've ever been as well. Like, it's a fantastic experience, you know, if
It is.
if you want to visit as well. And of course, it's the place where part of the Quiet Man was filmed, certainly, anyway, as well.
In Cong, yeah, County Mayo, yeah.
In Cong.
Yeah.
Myself and Nolly did a lap of the town one night, and it was great crack. So yeah, no, I can only endorse the place.
How long did that take you? 5 minutes? 6 minutes? We turned left, then turned right. That was the town. Done.
Yeah. Well, that is essentially it. Don't be
There's
expecting a metropolitan.
some really top quality 5-star resorts in Ireland now. With, you know, Ashford, obviously, Adair Manor, I think, is it definitely
Unreal.
Did it win best in the world recently?
That's the money that's been put into Adair Manor is ridiculous. Like
I got one night in Adair Manor, and I never saw the attraction. Then I got down there and I stayed in Adair Manor one night and I went, yeah, okay, I get it now. Like, I mean, it was an incredible experience. Like, and it's just an incredible place. And I can absolutely see the attraction.
Oh, it's incredible. The amount, I think 50 million they sank into the place, and they'll tell you themselves that they were told it wasn't about cutting costs or finding the cheapest option. It was, what's the best thing in the world, and then apply it there. And I worked, like, I trained there years ago before they put that money into it, like long before it had serious investment. It was owned by an American. And I remember I was there a week, and I was a young 18-year-old out of Cove, and it was the first time really I'd left Cove, and I'm up there in Adair Manor. And I went into Limerick on the bus to get my hair cut. And I remember going into the barber in Limerick, and pure Limerick, like, he's talking away and asking me, what are you doing and where are you working? I said, I work in Adair Manor. Like, and he leaned in and he goes, after working there, he said, your view on the world will be forever changed. And I didn't know what he meant at the time, but it was kind of that thing of, once you saw it, you could never unsee it, you know? And you'd kind of seen this, to me as an 18-year-old, like, I remember calling home, like, to my mother and saying, and there's a Ferrari out in the car park, like, and there's a Porsche, like, and I was like blown away by it. I couldn't believe the amount of money that was spent there. But once you see it, you can never unsee it again. Like, everything else becomes a disappointment. Like,
you're in behind the curtain, like.
That's it. Under the kimono.
Yeah. Jeez, it's problematic.
Listen. Listen, we're just talking about nothing but not whiskey, and that's okay, but, like, we're having the crack. I'm conscious of the time in Ireland. It's now 2:50, which is normally the time where we'd be breaking into an old tune that, like, I see Dahi warming the pipes there, doing his scales in the background.
No. Well, my father's asleep upstairs. Other than that, now you get a full rendition out of me of Bull Hog, probably, like, you know. But that's what it's like.
What about the streams of Bon Claudia or Luke Kelly?
Yeah, good Luke Kelly song.
Would your father have an old bar or something? Would he like to get up and sing a song for us? Like,
she said, I go hit him a kick and I say, here, there's lads on the internet who to sing a song there.
The camera with you, and it could be like a bit of you know.
Do you remember when the lads in Jackass used to go wake their old lad, like, and they used to hit him a kick, or, you know, throwing out a mousetrap at him, like
Bon Claudia style Jackass.
It'd be very like that, because my old lad's 6'3", like, you know what I mean, and, you know, if he sung out at you, you'd feel it, like, you know, that kind of way.
A serious question has come in to completely ruin the mood of our banter and our non-seriousness. And it's a question from Michael. The label doesn't state, but is the new Michael Collins whiskey a blend?
So I don't have oversight on that at the moment, because we haven't released that into Ireland. But as far as I know, yeah, it is. I won't guarantee on that, but I think it is. But yeah, we don't have, I don't have oversight on that moment, just because we haven't released it into Ireland yet, so I haven't had a bottle in my hands.
but it is a Sazerac product, yeah, and we maybe in the future something will be happening in Ireland, like, you know, but at the moment I'm unsure, and I couldn't tell you for certain. But drop me a message on Messenger. I think we're friends on Facebook anyway, and remind me to come back to you on Monday, and I'll double check that for you.
There you go. Can't say fairer than that. Daniel Pennington, who shouldn't be here because his fiance is looking for gift ideas for him, has asked.
Why is he still awake?
I know. Geez, there's more Irish here at this time in the morning. Dahi O'Connell's the man for a tune.
I don't know where you got your information from.
Follow me up to Carlo, Dahi. Go on. Follow me up to Carlo. There you are.
Carlo tune. Yeah, it's called Follow Me Up to Carlo. There you go.
Would you give us a bar of Follow Me Up to Carlo?
I will not. No.
Would you give us 2 bars of it?
I won't give you any bars of it.
Is there anything else? Is there any other tune? I mean, it seems like you're all trying to hang your hat on being in the whiskey world, and in no way trying to pursue a career in singing or music, which disappoints me greatly.
Would you believe that, Barry? Like, you know, I mean, the absolute temerity, of that to come on this show with no songs in our heads and not a note between the two of us, like, you know.
I tell you what, I'm going to be raising the bar soon. Such is the popularity of appearing here, and the way it paves the way for people's careers going forward. I'm going to demand that a song is brought to the table.
Absolutely, Barry. And if you outline one person who's gone on to greater things, I'd be happy to learn a song for you.
Well, I'll look into it and I'll get back to you.
He'd do the analysis and he'd come back.
I look back through 9 months of lock-ins. I'm sure I can find someone who's better off than they were before. Daniel Pennington, who's firmly now on the bandwagon of getting people to sing, says the Paddy Prince has some vocal cords. Listen, I got Ger Garland from Irish Distilleries to sing not too long ago, 3 weeks ago, when we had the release of Blue Spot, the world's first tasting of Blue Spot, and I got Ger Garland to sing poorly, admittedly, but Ger Garland sang in any case. He sang Raglan Road.
Yeah, I know. Ger is a Raglan Road man, and that's what he does. I'll be honest with you now. If I was doing a song, it'd be Johnny Cash, because you don't actually have to sing them. You just kind of talk a little bit like this, you know what I mean? And I can get away.
You've obviously thought about it. So.
I have, with the outlads asleep upstairs. And this is the next whiskey I'm going on to, so I'm going to have a little bit of this now.
Show us that bottle. Hold that bottle up there.
Oh.
Peated single malt from Hinch, one of Ireland's newest distilleries, number 36, I think, which just distilled their first spirit last week.
Yeah, so Ballinhinch, I think we all have a friend up there in Jamie who works up at Hinch Distillery. So I think, again, Down, I think I've said it to you before, Barry, Down is fast becoming one of the distilling capitals of Ireland, between Ecklinville and Hinch, and of course we have Brendan Carty then as well, like, you know. So it's just it's a funny how these things kind of concentrate in certain places.
A lot happening up and down. Up and down. everything outside of Cork is up, because if you ever look at the weather map when they're doing the weather, everything is up from Cork, and I refuse to believe in gravity or the circumference of the earth. I'll just go by weather maps.
Well, no, to be fair, once I left Cork, I knew the only way was up.
Here.
Yeah,
weren't you very lucky to have Cork in your? The two of you were very lucky to have had Cork in your careers so early on, because I'll tell you this: if it wasn't for that Cork influence, I don't think you'd have the personality that you have today.
Yeah, no, I probably wouldn't be as resilient to absolute nonsense as I am now if I hadn't spent a few years in Cork.
I love Cork. I think it's a great place, by the way.
Dahi and I crossed paths in Cork, but we didn't know it at the time. And Dahi was part of a pub group called the Rebel Bar Group down in Cork, and I ran the company that did all the stock taking, all their inventory control, and I'd come down and count all their bottles. And Dahi probably signed the checks back in the day, or did something related to it. Or what did you do?
No, I ran 2 nightclubs.
Reds.
And the Savoy.
And the Savoy.
Yeah.
Savoy.
I was booking bands in like Cyndi Lauper and De La Soul, and
Do you have Cyndi Lauper in Cork?
I have a good story with Cyndi Lauper.
Is that Cyndi Lauper? Is that girls just want to? No, girls just want to have fun. That's Cyndi Lauper, isn't it?
Yeah. And Boys to Men was one of the highlights of my career.
Stop.
Can you imagine how big they were one time, and then they found themselves playing in the Savoy in Cork? It must have been pretty a fall from grace.
A buddy of mine now. He's on his wedding is scheduled now for February or March. I meant to go to it, but he opened for Calvin Harris in DCU.
Calvin Harris too, by the way.
Yeah, but Calvin Harris the week before Bounce. Do you remember Bounce? That song came out, and it was the week before that came out. And as soon as that came out, then Calvin Harris was kind of onto a new level. But my buddy opened for him in DCU, and we always kind of laughed about it. Like the buddy now, he fits telecom poles and stuff now, like, which does very well out of it. Like, but it was just funny, like that he opened as a DJ for Calvin Harris, like, you know, and that's one of his claims to fame.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Generally, in that situation, you were trying to find the cheapest person or the freest person to support the main act.
Absolutely,
that's how that worked. But yeah, we had
who you'd spend all your money on.
Can we put up a comment here from Natalie? This is a heartwarming comment. Me and Daniel Pennington had our third child in January. I spent the best part of 2019 pregnant and 2020 locked up over COVID. Give us a good sing song. We are kids free for the weekend. Listen, how do you turn down Natalie with a request like that?
The guilt.
To be fair, Natalie, it's very hard to turn you down. But
no, I'm not going to turn her down. I refuse. I won't. I won't let the audience down, Michael and Dahi, despite your misgivings and your inabilities to commit to a bit of crack. I'm going to go ahead and sing her a song.
Go on, Barry. We'll
Barry, before you go, right? I'm going to jump in and cut you off. I'm going to give you 2 bars of Follow Me Up to Carlo.
Here we go.
Only because, and I never sing, by the way, because I can't.
Here we go.
So and you'll learn why now in a second.
You will learn why, but you've asked, and Daniel Pennington, your fiance, is to blame for this. So
go for it.
Or Daniel is to blame for this using her Facebook.
Your full screen is all yours.
So nobody's going to know the words of this song now. So apart from me and a few other people from Carlo.
Follow me up to Carlo.
So lift my care, rogue your face, brooding o'er the old disgrace that Black Fitzwilliam stormed your place, drove you to the fern. Gray said victory was sure, soon the firebrand he'd secure, until he met at Glenmalure with Fiach McHugh Byrne. Curse and swear, Lord Kildare, Fiach will do what Fiach will dare. Now Fitzwilliam have it there, fallen is your starlow. Up with halbert, out with sword, on we'll go for by the Lord. Fiach McHugh has given the word, follow me up to Carlo. There you go.
Hey!
Yup the lads.
Good man. You! Fair play. It isn't often we hear about Carlo, even less that we'd hear a song about Carlo. So fair play to you.
Thanks. It's quite a good song. It's quite violent, but it gets a bit more bloodthirsty about beheading people and sending over their heads to Queen Elizabeth, etc. But
sure, look, you have to do what you have to do. You know.
Well, sure, look, those were the days. Lots of great feedback there. Bravo, good man. Oh, you're brilliant. Natalie's happy with that. Great stuff. James Lynch loving it. Fair play, says Daniel. All right, that's great. Now we're off. We're only getting started. Michael's looking very nervous there, like
very nervous. No, you're going to have to wake up your papa.
Nah, the old lads, he's straight above me, lads. I'd be better around the house, like, you know what I mean?
Have you a brush? You can just bang it up there, like.
30 years of age, I'm still scared of the old lad, like, you know what I mean? That's
yeah, sure. If he's 6'3", like, no wonder. I sang a song a few weeks ago about the famous Cove man, Jack Doyle, the boxer.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And there's a lovely song written by Jimmy McCarthy, called The Contender, and Christy Moore sings it, does a lovely version of it, but it's a beautiful, beautiful song, and it's a lovely haunting song about a man riddled by the devil of the drink, and who could have made it very big, but the drink took him. And I'll always caution on nights like this and times when we're enjoying the whiskey is that it's all well and good as long as we can manage it and control it and respect it. But when it takes us over, it's a time for us to pull back. And sadly, to Ireland's greatest boxer, Jack Doyle, he couldn't control it and he lost everything and died a pauper on the streets of London. But there's a lovely song about his rise and fall. And I'll give a few bars of that if Natalie will let us, and if she so will allow me to indulge. And then we let Michael think about what he's going to sing. All right. This is called The Contender. Christy Moore made it famous. Oh, when I was young and I was in my day, I could steal what woman's heart there was away. Sing and dance until the morning, blaze a trail till the dawning, long before I was the man I am today. I was born beneath the star that promised all. I could have spent my days between Cork Cove and Youghal, but the wheel of fortune took me. From the highest point it shook me. By the bottle live and by the bottle I will fall. But there in the mirror on the wall, I see the dream is fading, from the contender to the fall. The ring, the rose, the matador is raving. When I die, I'll die a drunk down on the street. You can count me out to 10 in clear defeat. Wrap the starry plough around me, let the piper's air resound me. There I'll rest until the Lord of Love I'll meet. But there in the mirror on the wall, I see the dream is fading, from the contender to the brawl. The ring, the rose, the matador is raving. Oh, when I was young and I was in my day, I could steal what woman's heart there was away. Sing and dance until the dawning, blaze a trail until the morning, long before I was the man you see today. And there in the mirror on the wall, I see the dream is fading, from the contender to the brawl. The ring, the rose, the matador is raving. When I die, I'll die a drunk down on the street. You can count me out to 10 in clear defeat. Let the piper's air resound me. Let the starry plough around me. There I'll lie until the Lord of Love I'll meet. There I'll lie until the Lord of Love I'll meet. Jack Doyle, good cove, man.
Wahoo, Barry. Wahoo. Very good.
There's knickers everywhere, Barry. There's the oaks being thrown on the stage.
And they're just
going wild in the crowd. There's people going wild in the crowd. It's crazy stuff.
I actually did see knickers getting thrown on the stage when Boys to Men were playing in Cork. It was
Barry. Did we this is we've done 3 whiskeys. I was gonna say, Barry, we've done the 3, haven't we?
We've done 5 or 6 at this stage.
Yeah, no, but I was just making sure we've done the 3 you promoted. I was kind of going, we've done them, haven't we? Yeah, we have.
I mean,
I'm on to my nightcap now. This is my last one.
Yeah, no, I'll chime in on that. Chime in on that one as well.
MP's going to keep his knickers, which is fine, and I'd recommend he does. But maybe there's a time in the future when Michael has like an open field to sing in or something where his father isn't above him.
Yeah, no,
After maybe pick the
that
strawberries next summer, he can do a live stream.
yeah, no, that's it. I'll bring us out all picking strawberries, and we'll go to we'll distill an old whiskey out of strawberries, and I'm sure it'll be grand.
But look, we've had a few whiskeys, we sang a few tunes, we talked shite, people apparently were entertained. We've no idea why, but we'll take it and we'll ride that wave. There's no more to say. We've done it all.
Yeah.
We've done it all.
Yeah, the only way is down.
I mean, look, the only way is down. Up, down.
Down.
Unless there's another song there somewhere, like Dahi's. I see Dahi kind of doing the scales again.
He's throwing shapes there, all right, like.
I don't. That, honestly, that is... I can't believe I did that though. Anyway.
I can't wait till you get someone on that can actually sing and that to do a good rendition of a tune. Like, I mean,
we've had many good singers. To be fair, now they're not cheap, and I have to save my pennies to get the good singers in. Like, and any time I get a musician, we pay them in full as if they were in a pub for a night, because I think the singer should be paid. But so that means that I have to save my money because this is a low budget production, and yeah. But we'll get more singers. It won't just be me warbling or Dahi, like.
You warbling or me croaking. Look
at this. Look, the peer pressure. It's all coming from one household, though. Daniel and Natalie. One more tune.
Lads. Do you not have fucking YouTube? Like, you know, just
send Daniel Pennington a link to fucking sing himself.
Yeah, just go. You have YouTube. Go on, throw it on there, lads.
Daniel there. Daniel Pennington, would you like to come on and sing the banks of my own lovely Lee as a duet?
I'm disconnecting. I'm done. I'm out. Like, I mean,
maybe
Daniel, I'll send you a link.
Matthew, yeah.
Daniel, if you want to sing the banks, I'll send you a link and you can join us. But we can do the banks.
Let's see how big the set is now. Like, I mean, let's see how brave he is now. Like when the offer's thrown out there.
Oh, how oft do my thoughts in their fancy take flight.
Nobody wants to hear that, Barry.
No.
I think everybody wants to hear that. No. I mean, look, the audience is crying out for. He's English. Who's English? Natalie says he's English. Daniel's in English. Is he? Some Cork accent on an Englishman.
But you're lucky. Doesn't mean he doesn't know the banks me own lovely Lee. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, we could do something English. We could do Rule Britannia.
Yeah, that'd be a great song. That'd go down really well with your audience, I'd say.
Yeah, Daniel should definitely come on there and sing Rule Britannia, I think.
Daniel, if you're a great man.
Oliver.
How does it start? How does it start? God say what?
Something from Oliver.
Where is love?
I played Mr. Bumble in a rendition of Oliver.
I'd believe it. But I can one-up it. I played Oliver in the Cork Opera House in the 1980s.
Oh my God. Now we're getting to it.
I was in the Montfort Stage School when I was younger. And I would... Is
that like the Billy Barry kids for Cork, like, is it?
It's like the poor man's Billy Barry kids, like.
Yeah.
So listen, you're going to have to give us a rendition of something from Oliver.
Just as an aside, there, I just want to throw this fact in, and she'll murder me. Jenny from the Loch, she was a Billy Barry kid for about a week, and then she got kicked out for falling asleep in a class. Now she was about 4 at the time, but she got kicked out for falling asleep.
They run a tight operation there. I'll tell you.
Apparently they do. Yeah, apparently it's like some sort of a crack troop of dancers, like, you know.
Yeah, my missus was in it as well when she was 6 or something, 5 or 6.
And then she was told that no, your services are no longer needed.
She was shipped off back to Germany.
Would there be a good song to sing us all out?
Just do the national anthem. We just stand up heart in hand, like, you know, we like a good country nightclub.
Natalie thinks that we're some kind of professional song outfit here. Like, can we sing "A Mother's Love's a Blessing"? I don't know this song.
You might have more chance of singing Garth Brooks or something, like, you know what I mean?
That's a great call, Michael. You should do that. I actually am gonna have to sign off, guys. I hear
Right. Dahi's off.
kids screaming, and I better go deal with them.
The parting glass. Dahi, go on away. You've been a legend. Thanks for your input. We took you for a lot longer than we expected. Thanks for giving us no information about future releases. We'll see you soon.
All right, buddy, go on.
There's Dahi O'Connell. Good man. That's it now. That's okay. We got requests for. There's only one chong, the old triangle or parting glass. Just madness altogether.
I tell you what, how's this for a promise? I'll do the old triangle the next night I'm on, that I have a bit of space, like that I'm not waking the whole house up.
Okay.
All right.
Fair enough. Okay, if that's if you promise us that, that's good enough. We'll have you back same time next week. Will that suit you?
Oh, fucking hell! Stop.
We'll talk. How's that, Barry?
Fair enough. Michael, you've been a legend, a gentleman. You've entertained us. You've regaled us. You've had stories. You've had sips. We can't ask for more from you.
Listen,
in your parents' house.
It's always a pleasure, Barry. Absolute pleasure. Look, we'll do it again soon. I'm glad everybody was entertained. I'm glad everyone was entertained by your absolute fucking inane ramblings, like, you know what I mean? But listen,
what passes for entertainment these days, honestly?
It's bizarre. Listen, thanks very much, pal. I'll talk to you soon, right?
Michael, thanks a million.
Thanks, everyone.
Michael Cowman, legend and Irish whiskey bon vivant and great man, giving us some tunes. This was the last whiskey I tried there, the 2008 Causeway collection, Bushmills, single malt. Look, we had a good old tune, a good old set of tunes, a good old chat. Good night, Laura and Chris and MP. That's it. Another fun night. Hilarious stories and lovely sips, Maureen says. That's it. Daniel, you got your songs. You got your tunes. We don't know all the tunes. We're amateurs at this, but look, we gave it a shot anyway. And look, it's 3:15 in the morning in Ireland. It's 7:15 in the West Coast and 10:15 on the East Coast of the United States. I think we're at the end of our lock-in tonight. We had a little bit of interruption on Facebook earlier, but we picked back up. John Byrne signing off from Galway. Good man, John. John Ritko, Sláinte. Brian Redden, great night all. Well, we had our songs, we had our tunes, and we'll be back again next week. We have a couple of great lock-ins planned for the rest of the year, including a Christmas special, which we're working on, which we'll give you more details of soon. But that'll be a big night with lots of guests over the course of the evening. So we're working on our Christmas special. So stay tuned for that. So thank you, as always, for joining us. Our tunes are done. Our sips are done. Our stories are done. We'll be back again next week. And in the meantime, I'll see you in our Irish Whiskey Fans of America Facebook group. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, keep your distance from people. And I hope to see you back here again next Friday. Good night.